Good afternoon and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. The two-day European Union summit is currently underway in Brussels. From talks on foreign affairs to breaking the impasse over the imposing sanctions on Belarus, everything is on the agenda. The European Union leaders have opened the way to long-delayed sanctions on Belarus in a summit deal that patched over deep internal divisions on how to handle Turkey. Cyprus has lifted its block on the countermeasures against the government in Minsk, after fellow member states agreed to issue a veiled threat of sanctions against Ankara over its contentious Mediterranean energy exploration.
We therefore expect that Turkey from now on abstains from unilateral actions. In case of such renewed actions by Ankara, the EU will use all its instruments and options available. We have a toolbox that we can apply immediately. But this is not what we want. We want and would prefer to work on a new, long-term EU-Turkey relationship.
Still hanging over the leaders, though, is the bloc's problem with violations of the rule of law in member states and how efforts to punish those violations are tied in with money. Now, the Coronavirus Recovery Fund of 750 billion euros and the European Union's 1.1 trillion euros multi-year budget is also on the agenda. But one key issue to watch out for is the EU's policy direction on China. In the last decade, China made significant inroads into Europe. Of 650 investments since 2010, close to 40% were linked to state-owned firms. Now, Chinese state influence was hidden through multiple layers of ownership and complex shareholding structures. We're being joined by our DW correspondent, Chelsea Delaney, live from Berlin. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for being with us. Now, the two-day EU summit has begun. There is a lot happening in Europe. A lot is on the agenda. What are we expecting?
So really the heart of this summit is the EU's foreign policy strategy going forward. There are a lot of different conflicts really bubbling up right now, and the EU has found itself increasingly paralyzed to act. And that's in part because of the way the EU makes foreign policy decisions. It has 27 countries, and each country has to agree. They need a unanimous decision whenever they're deciding on many foreign policy decisions. And each country, of course, has its own domestic interest, and that often really conflicts with the EU-wide interest. So we've seen this over the past 2 days really playing a role in things like the sanctions on Belarus. The EU did finally decide on to allow those to go forward, but it required a bit of diplomatic negotiating to get Cyprus on board after they wanted more of a crackdown on Turkey and the rising aggression from Turkey in terms of drilling off the coast of Cyprus. So this all is really pointing to the fact that the EU is very much struggling to come forward and be a really active player in foreign policy. So one of the big discussions that is being had in Brussels today is if the EU should move away from unanimous decisions on things like foreign policy, because it clearly has made them a bit of a weak player in the eyes of many of its international peers.
Right. And in a summit deal that patched over the international divisions on how to handle Turkey, we know the European Union is speaking about imposing sanctions on Turkey if they persist in drilling for gas in the Cypriot waters.
Yes, so this is really the key question. Turkey has been drilling off the coast of Cyprus and Greece. It's disputed territory. Cyprus and Greece say that this is their area and that Turkey shouldn't be drilling there. And so we have seen EU leaders really criticizing Turkey, but at the same time, Turkey is very crucial for the EU because it has helped the EU immensely in terms of migration policy. Many migrants who would have come to Europe have instead stayed in Turkey. So the EU is walking a really fine line because they are very concerned about the aggression from Turkey in terms of its drilling off the coast of off of Cyprus and Greece. But at the same time, they really need Turkey as an ally. So we have seen a bit of a split in the discussion, particularly between France and Germany. France is taking a more hardline approach. Germany is soft pedaling a little bit. But really, there isn't much of a cohesive agreement within the EU about how to deal with the increasing aggression of Turkish policy.
Right, moving on to the Coronavirus Recovery Fund. There's 750 billion euros. Some countries in the EU needing more assistance than others.
Yes, so this 750 billion euro package is very crucial, and it's very urgently needed by many countries within the EU, particularly some of the harder hit southern European countries like Italy, Spain. They are facing significant contractions in GDP, more than 10% for both of those, and they also, especially Spain, continue to struggle with a second wave of infections, and they are having to institute new lockdown and restriction measures. That really just underscores how urgent this money is needed to help offset the economic impacts for those countries. But like many things within the EU right now, it's very difficult for these countries to come together on an agreement. And you mentioned earlier the rule of law. That really is the sticking point on this money. Many countries think that the money should be contingent on countries like Hungary and Poland sticking to the rule of law, basically not backsliding on democratic principles. Hungary and Poland are threatening to veto this package instead. So we are seeing negotiations go forward. Germany, for example, has put forward a proposal, but everyone does agree that this money is urgently needed. So hopefully they will be able to find some sort of agreement soon so that the money can quickly get to the countries that need it.
Right, and Chelsea, just one more question before you go. One of the major key issues is the EU's policy direction on China. We have seen that China has made significant inroads into Europe through business economically. What are we expecting there?
So we actually heard earlier today that the EU is going to sort of kick this question down the road a little bit. They're going to hold a summit next month in Berlin to have a broader discussion about how they want to change their policy towards China going forward. So it looks like they were dealing with a lot of other big issues today, and they want to give this more time. The EU is also in a bit of a difficult situation with China because China is an extremely important trade partner for the EU. It's been the source of a lot of investment in the EU, but also many companies, particularly here in Germany, companies like Volkswagen and Mercedes, they have huge interest in the Chinese market. They get a significant portion of their sales there. So we have seen a very difficult decision making by EU leaders of how to walk this line between their concern over human rights violations, the crackdown in Hong Kong, just the increasing aggressiveness of the Chinese regime versus the economic interests. So they do want to be more active and be more aggressive in terms of trying to make China uphold those democratic principles while at the same time still not sacrificing the economic interest of the European economy. So a very difficult road, but we'll likely hear more on that next month at this summit in Berlin.
Right, Chelsea, thank you very much for bringing us that report and all the latest coming out of EU.